Hey guys, Josh Deal out here looking at a ranch in Erath County, and just kind of wanted to talk about what we're seeing as a product of the last year and the environment. So before I sold real estate, I worked for the Natural Resources Conservation Service for about 12 years, and this is what we did every day. We walked around, looked at places, helped the landowners inventory their property, see what they had, and then talk about different solutions to improve their property. So what we're looking at here is native pasture, kind of a fairly shallow, hilly site. Never had any improved grasses on it. As you guys are well aware, we had a pretty good drought over the last year, and a lot of times that results in a little bit heavier grazing than maybe somebody wanted. And this native pasture is just not quite as durable and can't withstand that heavier grazing like maybe your improved pastures can. And so when you get a lot of bare ground from that extra grazing, from that lack of rainfall, you get a lot of space for weeds to come up. And so we've got things like croton here and broomweed and a whole host of wildflowers. And you know, if you're a naturalist, maybe those flowers are pretty to see, but if you're a cow man, for every pound of weeds you're growing, that's a pound of grass you're not going to grow. And so we're starting to see some recovery. If you look out here behind us, we've got some little blue stem. You can see the blue color there. That's where that comes from. It's one of our most basic native prairie grasses. Provides good cow forage, provides good wildlife habitat. You know, a nesting bird is going to look for a clump of grass, maybe the size of a basketball. And so the more of those you have, the better for your quail habitat or any other kind of grassland bird species. Looking around here also, we've got a small ash juniper. Most people will call that a blueberry cedar. It's actually in the juniper family. And the other variety is redberry juniper or redberry cedar. There's a little bit of Indian grass coming up right here, which is another one of your great prairie grasses. And one thing I think a lot of people don't realize is just like we have preferences for food, cows and wildlife are the same way. You know, they don't just look at grass as grass. And if we walk into a restaurant and we've got a buffet of, and it's got bologna and hot dogs and sandwich meat on this end, and this end's got prime rib, and it's got rib eyes, and it's got lobster and everything else. Which end are we going to? I don't know about y'all, but I'm going for the rib eye and the lobster, right? So a cow is the same way, and they can differentiate those grasses as they're moving through the pasture. So if they've got an option to eat this old blue stem right here that's wiry and tough, or they can go right there and eat that Indian grass, they're eating that Indian grass every time. And so you can actually classify grasses through 2 or 3 different categories. You've got increasers, decreasers, and invaders. And those are all going to be their response to grazing pressure. And so a grass like an Indian grass is highly desirable, or a little blue stem, or a switchgrass, an eastern gamma grass, big blue stem, those are all decreasers. And so when they're grazed too hard, they will start to disappear, and because they are desirable, and those cows will just stay on top of those. And that's where the importance of rotational grazing comes in. You send your cows in, they graze through the pasture, and then you get them off so your pasture can recover. And then you've got other grasses like this KR blue stem that's not a native grass, and it would be an invader. It's going to find that open space and it's going to come up and take over. You've got other grasses right here like this silver blue stem. You know, it produces a decent amount of forage. As you go west, it's a pretty good grass, actually. Here we can do a little better in central Texas, but it would be more of an increaser. When that Indian grass right there starts getting grazed out, that's where you're going to see the silver blue stem come on. And so there's lots here that the land can tell you about the history of the land, how it was used, the drought history. You know, it's pretty interesting. This land did not look anything like this before European man showed up and many would say ruined it. You know, when it was just buffalo and Native Americans and antelope, and you know, we're here in central Texas, but there were black bears, there were wolves, and it was a lot of just wide open prairie, oak savanna, you know, scattered live oak trees, not a lot of cedar, not a lot of mesquite because there was prescribed fire that came through. You know, the buffalo would graze and then they would leave. And obviously we don't have those practices these days with cattle. So pretty neat stuff. Like I said, the land can tell you a lot. Appreciate you guys' time.